final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
We won't prepare any different this week than we did for Florida State. We won't prepare any different this week than we will next week. Zero. Everybody wants to always say, "Okay, man, are you gonna start working on that?" We work on this week, this plan. That's all you can do.
I leaned on a lot of the experience of our football team that went through that, and understanding it starts with your preparation. That's the most important thing, is prepare the right way. Proper preparation prevents poor performance in a lot of situations. So that's kind of where we start. That's all we can control right now is our preparation Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday leading to game day.
It is a Talking Tuesday on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Will Pelagic, Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes, producer Brian Leonard, as we open the penultimate Talking Tuesday for at least both head coaches. Dabo Swinney will get at least one extra one for the ACC Championship week. But the message from both head coaches this week, Pro, is very similar. Do not overlook what is in front of you. And as I spent my time in Pickens County and on the Clemson campus today, you know, listening to people talk and listening to the media talk, listening to fans talk, they are already thinking not even about the Palmetto Bowl. They're already thinking about Miami. They've basically bypassed this week and next week already and have their sights set toward Miami. Conversely, in the Midlands, where we sit, basically everybody here wants to talk about the Palmetto Bowl next week between Clemson and South Carolina because the Gamecock fans feel they have a legitimate shot. Nobody is paying any credence to this week, yet inside the locker room, both head coaches want to make sure that their preparation is solid because, as we saw 2 years ago, you can be apt to be beat if you are not focused directly.
That is correct, sir, because both offenses are designed to limit your opportunities to have the football. And if you let those teams stay on the field, I know Wofford, if they get near their own 45, they're going on it on fourth down, even if it's 3 to 4 yards. And a lot of times they get it. The interesting thing about this is you don't want your team to psychologically think about their health. Because with that cut blocking, see those guys you thought you may have had for the Palmetto Bowl, if they're not paying attention, they may have a leg injury here and there. So you got to be not only playing your assignments, but make sure you avoid the cut block.
And hearing from both head coaches talking about it, Will Muschamp talked about the ethics of the cut block. Dabo Swinney said that they might hold some guys out who are on the borderline, like a Dexter Lawrence, probably another week because of the propensity of the cut blocks involved with the option offense. And make no mistake about it, the circumstances that befell the Gamecocks 2 years ago are far from what they go into here, but they're going to play a better team on Saturday than the one that came in here and beat them 2 years ago at Citadel when this Wofford Terrier Ball Club ranked 7th in the FCS stats poll and coaches poll and Southern Conference champions. So you need to be on your P's and Q's for South Carolina, and conversely, Clemson, who has had some attrition on the defensive side of the football and will probably be playing with some deficiency in areas that they normally would have a lot of players in. There are going to be some situations where they might not play some guys on defense because of depth, and they'll try to sub guys in because, like you said, Pro, they will try as much as possible to take the oxygen out of the football, to use a basketball analogy.
So this is where your offense is your defense. You get a 2 or 3 score lead, take them off schedule, make them maybe have to throw a little bit more than they like to, and then that's when the turnovers start. You can cause some bleeding, get a big lead, get those guys off the field and get them ready for the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
I wasn't there 61 years ago, but he wasn't late to the delivery room. He wasn't necessarily late to the program today, but he is here. The birthday boy, Phil Kornbluth, is with us here.
How did you know that?
How did I know that? I have my sources. I have sources in and around the state of South Carolina that tell me certain things. But happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, indeed. It is the day.
You actually
Good to be with you.
You actually share a birthday with one of my exes. That's also kind of scary as well.
One of your ex what?
One of my ex cohabitators.
And she's also in Texas.
No. She's
okay.
Not. Actually, she is now. Actually,
Well,
she
I hope
is
she
now.
had a good day today.
I don't really care.
I wish her well.
I hope she. No.
I've had a wonderful day.
You have you really?
Sorry I'm late. Doggone traffic and errands and everything else.
I understand.
But I had full confidence that you guys could get us rolling.
We were just talking about the fact that it seems like everybody wants to talk about everything but this week.
We kind of started that last night.
People in Clemson want to talk about Miami. People in the Midlands want to talk about next week.
Yeah.
And nobody except the people in the locker room want to talk about Wofford or Citadel.
Yeah, and they've got to stay focused, the one game at a time approach. If they don't take that approach, then you lose sight of what's ahead of you. And as South Carolina learned a couple of years ago, you take one of these FCS teams lightly that runs the triple option and runs it well, you could have a battle on your hands, and that's what the Citadel did to them. Of course, that was a South Carolina football team that was a train wreck pretty much at that time. This is an entirely different team. So, but this is a better Wofford team. Well, that Citadel team was very good. They won the Southern Conference.
Right.
This Wofford team is very good. They won the Southern Conference. They're going to be in the FCS playoffs. A lot of respect from Will Muschamp, from Mike Ayers, and what they do, because what they do well. And, within your own world, if you're like a Wofford, even though you might be out-athleted, undersized, if you do what you do well, you can cause a big problem for a superior opponent if that opponent's not on its game. We've seen it time and time again. So, yeah, we kicked off the week because people want to talk about South Carolina Clemson. We have a short week next week with Thanksgiving and everything else going on, so people's attention span will be somewhere else. So it's okay for us to do it, but the combatants are certainly focused. Look, I mean, Wofford's got bigger fish to fry.
Absolutely.
Would they love to beat South Carolina? They're going to get the same amount of money, win or lose.
Right.
Okay. But the biggest thing for them is the next week when they get into the FCA playoffs and try and go for a national championship. Is there a bye? I think maybe they have byes in the first week in the FCS now.
I think they don't have those.
Whenever they get into the playoffs, whenever their playoff run begins, that's going to be bigger for them.
Well, Brent Venables said something that applies to both Wofford and to Citadel. He was mainly talking about his own ball club when talking about this, but I think the same principle applies, is that when you're a coach, you can kind of trick your players into believing certain things, or trick your players into getting to buy into certain concepts. And all you really have to teach right now, if you are Wofford or Citadel, is belief. And if you get an opening, which either one of these teams can create, because other than the Kent State game, we haven't really seen anybody blow anybody out of the water as far as this goes. They've been arm's length in Clemson at times, and South Carolina really hasn't blown anybody out this season. And
Arkansas.
That was more of a circumstance. That was circumstantial. That was kind of a couple of crazy things.
You can't give the Gamecocks credit for blowing somebody out.
Yeah, it's Arkansas.
They blew out Arkansas. You see where a former Arkansas player is calling for Houston Nutt to be returned as the head coach.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
But Wofford, for instance, Wofford's in a close game. They think they're going to win it because that's all they play.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's a heart stopper, Wofford is right at home.
My point is that these two schemes lend themselves to close ball games. It's hard to blow out an option team unless you just have so much offensive efficiency that you can't even give the other team any hope.
Two things you can rest assured of when it comes to Wofford. Number one, they're going to run the triple option. They're going to run it to death. And number two, at every opportunity, Coach Mike Ayers will go for it on fourth down.
Yes.
He does not like to punt. And if it's reasonable, I mean, I'm talking about maybe from like his 40-yard line on. If it's fourth and makeable, running the triple option, he's going to go for it. He's crazy about going for it on fourth down. So, yeah, South Carolina has got to be aware of how to defend the triple option and the responsibilities, and players can't be heroes trying to defend the triple option. You just have to play your responsibility. We've heard Brent Venables talk about it because Clemson plays it every year in Georgia Tech. It's the same thing. Just do your job and don't try and go over there and help Jimmy out. Let Jimmy do his job and you do your job. Because if one guy fails to do his job, that creates chaos for the defense and trying to stop it. All right, we'll be right back.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Brian Leonard's here to take your phone calls, 800-956-7266. It is, of course, the week before the week that we're waiting on. Last night, some folks who gave us the picks that they had in their heads at that time, USC 27-24, 35-28, Clemson pick of 38-17. If you want to share your picks with us tonight, looking ahead, again, I am not taking anything away from Wofford Citadel, obviously, but you know that people want to talk about South Carolina and Clemson, and we're not going to hold you back from doing that. 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @sportstalksc. Yes.
I was just listening to the folks at Clemson. They don't even want to talk about Carolina yet. All they want to talk about is Miami. They're all ready for Miami already.
Okay, well, they better listen. Don't let them fool you. Do not. I know Clemson people like the back of my hand, just like I know Gamecock people like the back of my hand. Don't let them fool you. They always have a piece of their mind on each other.
Of course.
Always. I'm talking 365.
24/7.
They know what each one is doing. They're not going to admit it because that shows weakness, but I
think that was part of it. Yeah.
They are very much aware. Clemson is very much – and then I can already tell you, next Tuesday, I'll give you my Dabo impersonation.
Biggest game of the year. Biggest game of the year.
All right, you want to do my Muschamp impersonation for me?
It's not a – Thanksgiving is not a – it's not a day, it's a meal.
And that's why USC is Southern California.
You know why I try.
And the real Carolina is up in North Carolina.
I hope it gets a little dicey. I mean, clean dicey. You know, I want to have a little bit of fireworks for the rivalry game. Nothing wrong with it.
Dabo did make a joke about the laptop, though. He said he put the laptop out there when Citadel came and practiced on their on their campus because they were displaced by Hurricane Irma. He's like, yeah, we had the laptop out there looking at them.
I'm sure the Citadel people are. Now, listen, if anybody, I mean, you know, of course, they're not playing the Citadel. It's too bad because the Citadel has rubbed South Carolina's nose in that win the last couple of years.
Yeah.
When USC went down there and played baseball, they played highlights of that game on the Jumbotron at the baseball stadium. They have not let South Carolina forget that they beat them a couple of years ago. But I'm afraid it's going to be too much for the Bulldogs and should be too much for the Terriers when they come to Columbia. All right, we'll hear from the coaches. Of course, it is a Talking Tuesday. We'll hear from the coaches. Kerry Tharp will be with us. We get to the end of the NASCAR season. Hard to believe. Little Frank Martin on the Gamecocks win last night. Mick Mixon will be here. Panthers look good. My goodness.
They always look good on Monday night. Cam Newton 5-1 on Monday night.
45 points. They seem to be coming together now at the right time. Let's hit a phone call or two, 800-956-7266. Let's go to the namesake of the formerly ranked #1 team in the country, Bulldog Gert. Used to be Bulldog Bert, but since you lost your Bulldog Gert, because your team played like a bunch of sissies. I mean, come on, they played like a bunch of girls.
Yeah, well,
they did. They played like a bunch of girls. They didn't even know where they were.
Well, we knew where we were at. We was in the plane with Jared and Hare.
What happened, Bert? Seriously, what happened? Were they on drugs?
Auburn, Georgia.
Had they been out partying the night before? Did Kirby actually try to coach them? What happened?
Well, you know, it was a tough game. Like I said, rivalries you can't never predict.
The offense get lost on the way to Alabama. Did it maybe go to Tuscaloosa by mistake or something?
Well, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. The rankings come out tonight, and which I don't really think that matters because we're looking to play Kentucky next. We're not worried about Alabama. We're not worried about any other team. We're worried about Kentucky.
Well, you know, you could do the Gamecocks a favor. If you win, of course, they take second place in the league, which, you know, they would say thank you very much and then look forward to seeing you in Columbia next year.
Yeah. So
you sound a little down. You do sound a little down the mouth.
Sounds defeated.
Oh yeah.
Did you go to Auburn? Did you go to the game?
No. I did not go to the game.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch, and I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, I feel for you, Bert. As they continued to pile it up on you, I was feeling for you. I knew you were hurting.
Yeah.
You'll be back.
Anyway. We'll be back.
Don't take it too hard.
Yeah, he sounds.
But Bulldog Bert shows you how everything is relative. The Gamecocks are still floundering, trying to build it, but the fan base is upbeat because of what they expected. Once you get a taste of it, I mean, they've lost one game.
Yeah,
he sounds like it's a funeral.
That's the sad part of, well, you know, is it the system? I've always wondered what happens, and you know, I've been wondering for Clemson the last few years, but the Tigers just won't lose.
Right.
How
Except for
is there? How will
Syracuse.
their fan base? No, I'm talking about lose to the point where they're out of the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
How will their fan base react when their season is going to end in a regular bowl game and not in a playoff? And we haven't had to see that yet from the Tigers because one of these last 2 or last 3 games, I mean, they're going to be back in the playoffs again.
Imagine if Miami beats them. How that deflating feeling would take you from, okay, you're making plans to go to either the Rose Bowl or any one of these other bowls, and then you're basically having to, I say settle for either a New Year's Six bowl or even just a regular first-tier bowl. That's something that your fan base doesn't expect.
Well, I mean, and these teams that are the national powers, I mean, look, Ohio State fans right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like,
what are you doing?
What's the season's left is Michigan, and after that, who cares?
Well, they don't have, you don't need any extra motivation to get out to beat them.
No, but I'm saying but then they're going to go to a bowl game that to them will mean nothing because it's not in the playoffs.
Well, so much,
those teams that are at that, Notre Dame now is in the same boat. What's left for them this season besides Southern Cal? And they still want to play. No, they already played Southern Cal.
They already played them. They played them because they had them earlier this season.
Yeah, and that's why the Pac-12 is hurting because they demolished Southern California. But it's interesting how the dominoes fall. If I'm a truly thinking Clemson fan, I'm blaming those guys 90 miles, down the road, because if you didn't fire Mark Richt, you sent him to Miami to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You sent the mercenary out to go to Miami to do this.
Clemson's only got one thing to think about, and it's that unfortunate Friday the 13th that they spent up in Central New York. That's the one thing that they have to think about right now.
Well, I mean, that loss hasn't curtailed what they can accomplish. They're still in the top 4. They should be in the top 4 tonight when that comes out.
What I'm saying, their mulligan is gone, so to speak.
Well, true that. By the way, the ranking tonight will come out later because ESPN, which owns the right to every sports thought, has basketball at 7:00. Right? They got a basketball doubleheader.
Duke and Michigan State.
Yeah,
tonight.
they're gonna make you watch basketball so you can watch the rankings in between Kansas and who's Kansas playing?
Kentucky.
Yeah, who cares? It's November basketball.
Yes,
if this were March, I'd be shaking over these games. But let's go to Richard in Sherrall. Roger in Sherrall. I'm sorry. Hey, Roger.
How you doing, Corn?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. This is the first time I've ever called a radio show.
Well, we welcome you with open arms.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I heard Pelagic talking about you when the show very first began.
Uh-huh.
Is today really your birthday?
That's what they tell me. To me, it's just another day in paradise.
But
they tell me it's my birthday.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Corn.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
My birthday is Friday.
Well, happy birthday to you. How old will you be?
I'll be 60.
Well, you're a youngster. Enjoy it. You're a young man. Enjoy life. Good health to you.
How old will you be?
I just turned 40.
You just turned 40.
Just turned 40.
That's fake news. That's hashtag fake news.
Thank you, sir. Happy birthday to you.
I'm just surprised you said Pelagic correctly.
That's hey, it shows you're making progress in the state. People are kind of slowly, gradually warming up to you.
I wouldn't say that.
It's taking a little while.
I wouldn't say that.
All right, 800-956-7266.
See the comment sections of our website. See that.
And now I look up at the television and I see Krzyzewski. I'm surrounded by Z's. Krzyzewski and Pelagic. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, we continue on a Talking Tuesday. Talking Tuesday. I asked every Gamecock football player that came in for an interview, hey, you looking ahead to Clemson? Well, I did.
Of course you did.
And you know all what I'm saying? They
Nope.
Emily.
Anybody ask any Clemson players if they were looking ahead to South Carolina?
No.
Gutless.
No.
People are gutless.
Well, no. Well,
Do I have to do everything in the state?
Will Vandervoort at Clemson did ask about whether or not it was a distraction that it was going to be a night game and that it was another,
They say
because of the fact that Miami has to play on Friday and it basically gives them an extra day and a half preparation for the ACC championship game.
Oh, yeah. It's look, you got to have a little bit of fun around the rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
Part of the fun is asking the guys, hey, man, you know what's coming up next week? You thinking about it? No. Javon Kinlaw was the closest one. That kid, I tell you what now, first of all, if he continues to work
He's great.
and improve, he's got a chance to be an all-SEC defensive tackle, I think. He's got the size, and he's developing the skills if he just keeps the head on straight and everything else. Chuck Reedy, who coached him in high school, has told us he has got worlds of ability. And then his personality is starting to come out now, and he's a funny guy. Called himself the Chihuahua.
Yes.
Everybody's picking to him about that. And he's a guy that will stir it up a little bit, I think, when the time comes. So
that one tackle that he had with the sideline to sideline move that he had going up against the far boundary, that was a thing of beauty. That was about the only thing that was probably more beautiful than that was the Clowney tackle against Michigan years back. But he's certainly a talent.
All right, let's get to more of your phone calls. And if you have a selection on the Palmetto Bowl you want to give to us now here a little bit in advance, we'll be happy to put that on the list. Let's go to Tiger Bryan in Lancaster. Tiger Bryan, TB, how are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, happy birthday, brother.
Well, thank you so much.
Hey, it's been a while. Hey, I just everybody's hollering about Miami and Clemson and all this, man. Hey, we got to take care of business this week, next week. You can't overlook nobody.
You can. The players can.
Well, I'm just saying. I think South Carolina's they have come a long way. I give them credit. They played a good season. Now I figure it'll be about a 7 to 10 point game. Clemson winning, maybe 27-17. That's my prediction.
27-17, Clemson.
Yep.
Okay.
And y'all always do an outstanding job. I still listen to you. I just don't get to call in as much.
Well, TB, we appreciate that, and keep in touch with us. I think it'll be a much closer game than last year, as we talked about last night. And so far, we had a couple of people picking Clemson. They're giving the Gamecocks 17 points. The two Gamecock selections have them with 35 and 27 points. I don't know if the Gamecocks can manufacture 35 points against this Clemson defense. I think they would do well to score in the low 20s and then hope that their defense can do the job and that Clemson makes a couple of turnovers or they stop Clemson in the red zone and force Clemson to go field goal.
These fans make me laugh, man, about saying, we can't overlook. You as a fan, you can't overlook. You could say whatever the heck you want about the Palmetto Bowl or whatever you want if you're a Clemson fan about the ACC Championship. You could already look ahead. Anything you say is not going to have any bearing on whether or not Clemson inside their locker room is focused on Citadel or whether South Carolina in their locker room is focused on Wofford. Because guess what? They are focused on those teams.
Don't tell a fan that. Remember the lady on YouTube? You told me to wear the aqua jersey instead of the white one, and that's why we lost. When she was talking about Miami Dolphins.
I didn't see that.
That one's lost on you, Pro. I'm sorry.
All right, let's continue.
Usually I
she was
drunk with James and Rock Hill. James, welcome to Sports Talk.
I wasn't even going to call, but I felt bad for y'all. All these phone calls y'all are getting, and none of them were sports-related questions. Happy birthday to you, by the way, but I just...
Well, you can... That's fine. Yeah.
The Georgia guy sounded like his whole life was coming to an end.
I really felt... I kind of feel like I piled on Bert, and, he's usually...
felt like you piled
pretty good about taking it, but I think...
called the guy Gert right off the bat. That was a bad...
Well, because I was reflective of the way his team played, and... I feel bad now about that too. So anyway, he'll get over it.
I mean, it's like Syracuse. I mean, you just got beat.
better team. Were they better or were they not? You know, you just get beat. But
it happens.
My question is, you know, everybody's looking ahead, and you know, Will's right. You know, whatever we as fans think about, as long as they think about what they need to in the locker room, we can think ahead. And you know, I'm not trying to be facetious or anything like that, but I'm really trying to figure out outside of, you know, I give Carolina Hayden Hurst, I give tight end the edge, but outside of Hayden Hurst, is there anywhere on the field that South Carolina is physically better than Clemson?
Kicker.
Any skill position, wide receiver,
kicker,
tackle, whatever.
I would say that
question kicker.
I
really question kicker.
I would say,
probably even.
To answer the question seriously,
even.
Wide receiver, South Carolina's right there, in my opinion, with Clemson. I think Brian Edwards, Shi Smith, Hayden Hurst, who flexes out into like a wide receiver mode, or Trey Smith. I like their receiving group. I think their receiving group. Can I finish talking without you making all kind of noises?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I think their receiving group stands up very well in comparison to Clemson, in my opinion. Linebackers, Sky Moore, Brunson, Sherrod Green now, who's playing a good bit. I like their group there. Those would be the two.
Than Kendall Joseph and Trey Lamar?
Well, I didn't say they're better. I'm just saying that I think that they compare favorably with those guys.
I will answer your question with a question. Who did Syracuse have better than Clemson?
Well,
nobody.
We just got beat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a team game. It's a team game. It's not the sum of the individual parts.
I don't think.
I'm not trying to talk crap or junk about anybody. I'm just, I'm a Clemson fan, so I don't really, I keep up with Carolina, but I don't really. I'm not avid, so I don't really keep up with, lines of scrimmage and stuff like that.
I mean, if you're a Clemson fan, you better not take the Gamecocks for granted.
Never.
This week, last year, it was no contest, and we kind of knew it going in. It was no, I think as we were leading up to the game, I said, I thought this game would be a 50. What did I say last year, Pro? I mean, it was something.
I think you said 35 or 40.
Yeah, it was going to be bad. You knew it, and this year, totally different. I mean, South Carolina's got a good chance to win this game. Playing at home, it's going to be at night. Atmosphere is going to be all in their favor. It's not going to be like 2 years ago when probably there were, maybe 30,000 Clemson fans smuggled into Williams-Brice Stadium. Maybe that's a bit over the top. At least 20,000. There were Clemson fans everywhere. That's not going to be the case this time around. It's a better South Carolina team. It's a more confident South Carolina team with a better quarterback who can do some damage to you, But everybody else has got to play well. So I think there are things it's easy to sit here when you watch Clemson, as we have done, and see how good they are, and think that South Carolina's got nothing for them. But they do. I mean, they've done a nice job. They're a 7-win team, going to be an 8-win team when they play Clemson, and they did come through the SEC. Say what you will about some of the teams. They deserve some respect.
I take issue with what you said about the receiving core combination. I think Clemson has a far superior receiving group than South Carolina does. Hunter Renfrow, Deion Kane, Mary McLeod, Amari Rogers, DeAndre Overton, Trevion Thompson, T. Higgins. These guys could start for anybody in the country. I don't think anybody outside of Hayden Hurst or Trey Smith or Shi Smith you could say that about in South Carolina's side, other than a healthy Debo Samuel.
You don't think Brian Edwards could?
I don't think so.
You're so wrong. You are so wrong.
I don't think so.
You are so wrong.
Yeah, my goodness. First of all, he's the team's leading receiver.
I understand that.
He makes the tough catch over the middle and gets up and comes back for another licking.
He would start on Clemson.
And the catches.
Well, I didn't say he would start on Clemson.
I just said any of those guys who I listed
in the country.
I said anywhere in the country.
He would start at Clemson because he is physically
Clemson is in the country.
He would physically overmatch any defensive back in the ACC.
Clemson passed on him as a receiver. They wanted him as a safety. So because of who they already had in at wide receiver. But I think he has proven that, yes, if he were at Clemson, given a shot to play wide receiver, he could line up with any of those guys.
I like Clemson's group better than I like South Carolina's group.
All right, we'll be right back.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
All right, let's remind you about the upcoming Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl, the North-South game, December 9th, brought to you by South Carolina Electric Cooperatives. And want to tell you a couple of things. Number one, tickets are available through TouchstoneEnergyBowl.com, only $15 deal. Also, there is a contest through the magazine, SC Living, to give away tickets to the game. Winner gets 2 tickets, a $100 Visa gift card, and free Touchstone Energy merchandise. Need to move and get registered. Registration ends on December 1st. Go to their website, scliving.coop/touchdown. scliving.coop, COOP/touchdown. December 1 is the deadline to enter. So get your hands on some of those tickets. All right. It is a Talking Tuesday. We'll get back to more calls in a moment, but let's hear from one of the coaches. Let's go up to Clemson.
Dabo Swinney and the Tigers getting ready for the Bulldogs of Citadel.
Citadel, Coach Thompson, he's done a good job down there. They're a 5-5 team right now. Just a difficult team to prepare for. Obviously, they're the triple option. They've kind of got their own little nuances and personality with it that they bring to the table. But they're a challenge. I mean, it doesn't matter if who you're playing. If they're running a triple option, it's a challenge because it's not something that you do every single week. So we've got, we do have good experience. We obviously played Georgia Tech, and hopefully that will help us a little bit. But they do throw it a little bit more, which is, I think they're double. They throw it about 13 times a game, and Georgia Tech coming in only threw it about 7 or 8 times a game. So they're kind of the air raid triple option, if you will. So that puts a little bit more strain on you in that regard. So Brent and the boys they hate these weeks. I promise you. So we got to get a good plan. And the biggest thing though is just we got to get better. We got to improve really in every area. And that's really our focus is Clemson this week, and just really trying to just improve our team. I mean, there's so many areas that we got to improve on in all 3 phases, and just take care of our business the proper way, and make the plays that are there, clean up some things fundamentally, and just carry the focus and intensity throughout the 4 quarters. So. Looking forward to, again, closing out our home schedule and hopefully playing our best game to this point.
Citadel, did you have to remind your team, or do you remind them 2 years ago they went into Columbia and shoot up the clock and walk out there with a win?
Absolutely, because these guys, they don't know. Yeah, we better remind them. Because I promise you, they're not. You don't have many people in here coming to say, "Hey, Coach, did you know this happened?" They're just on to the next game. It's just these guys in this room, they are just next game, next opponent. It's Monday. It's what we do. It's Tuesday. It's what we do. They don't get really caught up in all that stuff. We won't prepare any different this week than we did for Florida State. We won't prepare any different this week than we will next week. 0. Everybody wants to always say, "Okay, man, are you gonna start working on that?" We work on this week, this plan. That's all you can do, and because when you start getting ahead like that, you lose your guys, and you send the wrong message to them. But absolutely, I'll make real sure. In fact, it's in my notes for today. I'll make dang sure they know.
And that is head coach Dabo Swinney reminding them about 2 years ago in Columbia, and again, basically saying they had to be on their P's and Q's because this option attack is not something they're used to seeing, even though they did see it earlier this year against Georgia Tech.
Well, it looked a lot more dangerous earlier in the year when the Citadel got off to a good start and things were going well. But for whatever reason, the Bulldogs have struggled here the last half of the season and not going to make the postseason playoffs this year. By the way, our poll question of the week on our website, sportstalksc.com. If you haven't made it over there yet to vote, please do so. A lot of you have. What should the line be next week? 42% say Clemson by 7-13. 29% say Clemson by 14 or more. Just under 20% say USC by 7 or more. And about 9% say it should be a pick 'em. So go vote and have your opinion heard there as well. Back to the phones we go. It is Ronnie in Sumter next up here on Sports Talk. Hello, Ronnie.
Hey, hello. What's going on, fella?
Having a great day. How about you?
Good, good. I'm a first-time caller.
Good.
I've listened to your show for years. I have to say, I think you guys are hilarious.
Well, thank you. We try to spin a little humor in there from time to time.
The dig y'all make on each other, I get a kick out of that. But I actually, if it's okay, I would like to make a comment and a question, and then y'all can kind of do what you want to from there. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm really looking forward to the Clemson-South Carolina game next week. For me personally, as a Clemson fan, I think a close game is good for the rivalry. And I also think a healthy Clemson defense, if we can get some of our secondary guys back in there, personally, I feel like the defense might possibly take the game over late in the third quarter, but I don't know. I think it'll be a tight game, or even tighter than what a lot of Clemson fans want to admit.
So what's your pick?
Well, yeah, I think it depends on Kelly Bryant's passing game. Has been up and down, up and down. I think if he has a decent passing game, I think we'll do pretty good. But South Carolina defense has improved this year, and I've enjoyed watching them guys play a little bit too. I got a feeling Clemson will win by maybe 14. I think our defense, if it's healthy, I think that's going to make a huge difference. They're pretty fast back there.
Give me a score.
Oh, man. I ain't no good at that, but I would say something like I think 28-20.
28-20.
Something like that, Clemson.
8-point spread. We'll give you 28-20.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, of course, you don't never know. I think South Carolina's got some revenge on their mind from last year, but I think it's going to be an excellent game. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I think the Gamecocks would be a very emotional team. They should be sky high. Somebody said last night, and thank you for your call. Somebody said last night, Clemson will have to withstand South Carolina's early emotional rush.
Right.
Gamecocks going to come out mad. They're going to come out excited. They're going to come out emotional. They were embarrassed by Clemson last year. And, payback is hell, as they say, and they're thinking payback. Now it's up to them as to whether or not they can deliver.
And he mentioned about Kelly Bryant not being as up as he's been over the course of the balance of this season, but when he's been down, it's not like he hasn't been picked up by his teammates. The running game last week was superb. It has been over the balance of this season for more than 200 yards again last week. So it's not like Clemson's offense is stuck in neutral. He had some execution issues last week, but just because Kelly Bryant isn't throwing for more than 200 yards doesn't mean that Clemson's still not producing.
Well, I think Kelly Bryant has been exceptional. We've seen college football through the years, and even professional football. Guys follow a legend, and they struggle. But as I said before, you got to give the coaching staff credit and Kelly Bryant credit that this is your team. Don't worry about what the previous guy did, even though sometimes he put on the Superman cape. This is what you do, and he stayed in character for most of the year, and you got to give him a ton of credit.
They wouldn't be division champions.
A ton of credit.
They wouldn't be division champions without him.
Coming up on the top of the hour, we'll take more of your calls in hour number 2. We will give you the recruiting in hour number 2. Tell you where Frank Martin is tonight. Where do you think Frank Martin is tonight? And I'm sure other coaches are there. Where do you think Roy Williams was this morning?
I bet you Frank is probably watching your boy Zion, maybe. Would you say?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you. In the recruiting report.
He's not up in Canada after that big guy?
Apparently not. We'll tell you where he is when we come back. Caller coming in, too. If you want to go ahead and grab it.
Well, you know, because of Beverly's injury, Phil, Thornwell's been starting for the Clippers the last 2 games.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Things are going well for him. Can't get anybody to respond to anything.
You know what Pro said to me when I walked in the office, Corey? Nice win for the Knicks last night.
He thought I was kidding. I thought he won.
Charleston and Danny.
When he went to bed,
Danny and where?
Florence.
Okay.
Because when he went to bed, the Knicks were up.
All right, you want to do this real quick?
The thing is, he didn't know the Knicks went to bed too.
All right, hang on a second. I thought I cleared that out. Okay, here we go. Coming down in 3, 2, 1. Busy weekend ahead for official visits at Clemson. Scheduled to be with the Tigers, offensive lineman Cade Mays, the former Tennessee commitment, wide receiver Justin Ross, who's also considering Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, and Florida, defensive back Tyreek Johnson, who's down to Clemson, Ohio State, and UCLA, running back Lynn J. Dixon, who's a former Tennessee commitment, offensive lineman Jordan McFadden, who's been committed to Virginia Tech, and defensive back Brendan Radley Hiles, a former Nebraska commitment, and offensive lineman Jamari Sawyer, who's down to Clemson and Georgia. USC was scheduled for one official this coming weekend, but defensive end Dorian Gerald has a game to play with his junior college. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina Radio Network Sports.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at SportsTalkSC. The only news to come out of USC's presser, Jamias Williams has a shoulder injury. He'll be evaluated later in the week to determine if he can play this week. Hayden Hurst honored with the seniors Saturday, though he told us he's not made a decision about leaving for the draft, though common sense would tell you people love him, think he's among the highest rated, if not the highest rated tight end in the draft. He's an older player, having gone through minor league baseball already. You would think he would go ahead and go for the money.
His blocking this year has made him some money. Big time.
As far as Clemson's injury report, a lot of names on there that might be held out. Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney said that they more than likely will hold Dexter Lawrence out with his foot injury. He is listed as doubtful. Mark Fields is listed as questionable, as is Trey Lamar. He has a stinger, but the MRI came back clean. Ryan Carter is still in concussion protocol, but he did meet with the media earlier today, so it makes it sound like he's going to play. Also, Marcus Edmond is expected to make his first action since week 2 of the season against Auburn. That is encouraging. You mentioned Hayden Hurst being honored on Senior Day. The same should be said for both Taylor Hearn and Christian Wilkins on the Clemson side, who are players who are not of senior eligibility, but will be honored on Senior Day.
Taylor Hearn, okay, it's interesting. Now, Wilkins, I certainly understand. I wonder if they think Hearn is moving on after this season. Back to your calls in a moment. Let's hear from Will Muschamp as he's getting his Gamecocks ready for the triple option threat of one of the best teams in FCS football, the Wofford Terriers. Coach Mike Ayers, their team is so hard to defend in terms of the running game. Of course, they run that option so well. Talented quarterback, several different running backs. They spread the ball around to a number of different guys, obviously, in their triple option. And, of course, Muschamp, being a defensive coach, has seen the triple option before. So he knows it's going to take a terrific effort by his defense and his team overall to win this game.
There can't be any "I thought he had the ball" or "I thought he pulled the ball." That's where you get in a lot of trouble, because when they're able to make you defend inside out from a dive to a quarterback with a lead blocker to a pitch, and we have certain assignments and one guy doesn't do his job, the other guys are executing their responsibilities. And that's when you create a big play in the defense.
With trying to face option football with kind of matching the assignment stuff, how tricky is that with how an option team can, if they can figure out whose assignment is what, kind of isolating guys, and also how much of a challenge is it going up against a coach like Coach Ayers, who's probably seen every single option defense game plan imaginable?
Well, he and Wade are not going to see anything new Saturday. I can assure you of that. And that's a huge part of what they do, is identifying what you're doing. And that's where they can get you in some trouble, because at the end of the day, you really don't want a vast playlist, call list versus a team like this, because it takes one mess up and the ball's out the gate. But once they identify and zero in on exactly what you're doing, they're going to have answers. You know that going into the game. So you got to have enough change-ups in the game to help you as far as those things are concerned, without slowing down your players and creating a mistake on defense. So that's an interesting balance.
Will, as a defensive player, how tough is it to anticipate and then overcome the cut blocks that come when you're facing triple
Well, that's
option
something
team?
you got to be aware of. The biggest thing to me is playing the block. So many times you get your eyes focused on the ball carrier, and that's when you get ginsued. That's when you get cut. And that's what the big emphasis to me is: you got to play the block first, because if you're on the ground, we're playing with 10. And that's what you've got to be able to do. You got to stay on your feet, give ground if you have to, keep your back leg out of it. All the coaching points we work on cut blocks, not just this week, it's every week, on the perimeter. Teams, are going to cut you on the edges and things. And we put a huge emphasis on the backside of plays, especially, starting back with NC State, first ball game of the year, they're a real team that would cut you out of the backside, and to stay on your feet on the inside and outside zone that they ran. So this is not a different week for us as far as the emphasis of the cut blocks.
You hear a lot of defensive coaches complain about the cut block and the ethics, I guess, of the cut block. Where do you stand on that topic?
Well, we talk about player safety a lot, don't we? I see cut blocks creating some issues for player safety. That's where I stand on it.
Where's the line between, in the way the block is executed, between I don't like that and that's dirty / illegal?
Well, I think it's a very thin line, and I think it's a hard line, because at the end of the day, it's a competitive game, and you're competing hard, and you're going to throw on a guy whether he recognizes you or not. You're a linebacker coming inside out of a play, and you don't see the cut block coming, and you can't identify it, and it's a total legally blocked based on the rule, and you got a problem. You got a guy with a knee injury. I mean, that happens a lot, and that's just part of it. If we were truly about player safety, we'd eliminate it, in my opinion. That's what I would say, but I don't know that'll happen.
Will Muschamp from his presser today over at USC. Of course, we've got more from Muschamp and from Sweeney on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. Recruiting coming up for you in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. We go back to your phone calls, 800-956-7266. Jared in Greenville. Next up here on Sports Talk. How are you, sir?
Hey, Phil. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you.
Hey, listen here. I got a little comment for the Palmetto Bowl, I guess, what you want to call it, whatever. I just think by the time Clemson and Carolina play, Clemson's defense should be pretty healthy. I think they'll have a couple guys back in the secondary. And, Dexter Lawrence, a lot of people don't talk about Dexter Lawrence, but he's missed a lot right now with his ability in the middle. I mean, the kid from Orangeburg, Pinckney, is that his name?
Yes.
Not sure.
No, Albert Huggins.
Albert Huggins, yes.
Huggins,
yes,
okay,
yes.
I'm sorry. But anyway, he's a good player, but he's just not Dexter Lawrence. And, they've missed him a lot. But as far as the offense goes, I just think Clemson's got so much speed on the perimeter, and the running game's really gotten better up the middle between the tackles with Feaster and ETN, and of course the other two. I'm not taking anything from the other two running backs they have, but I think depth will just overpower Carolina around about mid-third quarter, maybe late third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. And I just think Clemson, they've been scoring 30 points or better a game. I mean, I think it's going to be like a 34 to 17, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because yes, Clemson got, I mean, they got all the talent. I mean, they compete with Alabama and all the other guys, you know, recruiting every year, and they pretty deep. And but I also have this question, and it's really interesting, not to do with Clemson. If Georgia loses to Georgia Tech, but they still get to play for the SEC championship, and Auburn beats Alabama, does Alabama get looked at for the playoffs? And even if Georgia Tech wins the SEC against Auburn, do they still get to go to the playoffs? And I'm going to leave you with that.
Ooh, you talk about chaos.
That's dicey.
So I think if Georgia loses to Georgia Tech, they're done, regardless of what happens in the SEC championship game. I think if Auburn beats Alabama and then wins the SEC championship game with 2 losses, I think they're in.
Yeah,
They are.
in.
They are.
They're in.
If Alabama beats Auburn, then loses in the SEC championship game, I think they're still in. I think they'll still be in.
Yes.
I think if anybody gets the wide range benefit of the doubt, it's Alabama.
If Clemson got the benefit of the doubt, losing to Syracuse, Alabama would get the benefit of the doubt.
To the caller's previous point, I'm wondering how much emotional energy, or at least some of that emotional, like the ability to handle high emotion, close games. I wonder how much of that is left in Clemson's tank, how much of that will be taken out by the Palmetto Bowl by the time they face Miami, because there are just so much.
Been there, done that.
But there's so much of what they've gone through this year has been high emotion, close games.
They've been there, done that. They know how to handle their business. I don't think that's going to be an issue for them. They
some of them have been, but other than them, this is their first time doing it.
I think they'll be a touchdown favorite over Miami, at least, don't you?
I think they'll be a favorite.
I thought some of that emotion was coming out against Florida State because they were sloppy.
All right, we'll be right back.
More of your calls are coming up on Sports Talk. Hit us up at 800-956-7266.
All right, got some business to get to here on Sports Talk. Let's give you the recruiting update for tonight. Looking ahead to official visits at Clemson for this coming weekend. It's a long list of prospects and, of course, subject to change. Offensive lineman Cade Mays, the former Tennessee commitment, who's also looking at Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Receiver Justin Ross, also considering Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, and Florida. Defensive back Tyreek Johnson down to Clemson, Ohio State, and UCLA. Running back Lynn J. Dixon, former Tennessee commit. He's also been to Alabama this season, has other offers from Notre Dame, Auburn, Texas, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Florida, Ole Miss, others. Offensive lineman Jordan McFadden, been a Virginia Tech commitment, been sliding some towards Clemson, his childhood favorite, for several weeks. Defensive back Brendan Radley Hiles, former Nebraska commit, who's taken officials to Texas and Oklahoma. Offensive lineman Jamari Sawyer down to Clemson and Georgia. USC scheduled for an official visit from defensive end Dorian Gerald, but his team, College of the Canyons Junior College in California, has a bowl game Saturday, so he'll have to reschedule. He's been a Tennessee commitment, but he has reopened his recruiting since the firing of Butch Jones. He's also planning officials to Louisville, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. Also this weekend, USC commitment, defensive end Kingsley Enagbare, scheduled for Notre Dame. USC target, offensive lineman Jerome Carvin to Memphis. Clemson target, offensive lineman Jackson Carman to Florida State. Also, unofficial visit, noteworthy, USC target, Tennessee commitment, defensive back J.C. Horn to Tennessee. 2019 defensive back Cameron Kelly of Chesapeake, Virginia, was offered by Wisconsin. He was at Clemson Saturday. 2020 defensive end Reggie Grimes, Mount Juliet, Tennessee, was at Clemson Saturday. And the USC basketball staff, according to media reports, is out in full force tonight to see Zion Williamson as his team plays the team in Arden, North Carolina, Christ School. And at Christ School, there is Brandon Stone, team center, that South Carolina also is recruiting. North Carolina's Roy Williams was in to visit with Williamson again this morning. So far, nothing from the Williamson camp about any plans to announce a decision. The end of the early signing period is tomorrow. That'll do it for the recruiting report tonight here on Sports Talk. Check out our recruiting regularly on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting. It's a Talking Tuesday. We bring you more from the coaches. Back to Dabo.
And it is, while it is, the politicking season is over in politics as far as the Republicans and Democrats are concerned, it's not over when it comes to the football coaches. Dabo Swinney took to the podium not only to impress upon those assembled that his team is legit, but I think he might have had a message for the College Football Playoff Committee.
Really proud of our team for accomplishing the second goal. You work all year long to try to achieve goals, and anytime you see a group of young people come together and accomplish something, it never gets old because it's hard. It is, especially when everybody's after the same thing, and only one's going to get it. They don't give you an attaboy. You don't get any. One team is going to get the opportunity to represent the Atlantic, and this team in particular, it really has kind of won me over, man. They really have, because it's just been and I knew coming in this was going to be a different year and a different type of team. So many new faces, and this team has been fun and a lot of challenges. If you look at our schedule at the beginning of the year, and you're going to Louisville, and and it seems like when you win those games, the further on you go, it's like then nobody wants to give you credit, for some of these wins. They want to downplay that team. Let me tell you, that game at Louisville, I go back to that one. It's game day. It's all this stuff. Lamar Jackson he's an unbelievable player. And to see our guys respond, and same thing, turn around, come home, play a tough BC team, go to Virginia Tech. I mean, it's just been every week. Auburn, and just whatever situation this team has been in, we've somehow found a way to respond. Obviously didn't play great up there at Syracuse. They just whipped us and outplayed us and made a few more plays than we did and came up short. But, guys responded. And it's what I love to see, a group of young people, especially in this world where there's so much criticism and so much noise and so much overanalyzation of everything in everybody's life, and to see a group of young people. I mean, this is I saw Tim, this is the fewest seniors we've had since World War II. So, it's just amazing. And so, I mean, I'm really, really proud of this team. Regardless of what happens the rest of the way, this football team right here has been fun to coach, and they have responded, all year long, and coming off of a national championship and all that comes with that. Knowing you're going to get every ounce of everybody's best week in and week out, and they just put the work in. So I just can't overstate that enough. How proud I am of this group. If the season ended right now today, I really am pleased with their effort. They played hard. We hadn't always played smart. We hadn't always made every play that's there, but they have really played with a tremendous effort, and they've played together.
We won't get the rankings in the span of this show, but what are your top four, or what do you think it will be?
Yeah, my four: Alabama. I would go Alabama 1. I would go, I think I would probably go Clemson 2. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. That's funny. Go ahead.
Did I make a joke?
That was funny.
Did I say something funny? Why wouldn't you pick Clemson 2?
I
think of the.
I like Miami and Oklahoma better.
You're jumping on Miami because they're coming off a big win over Notre Dame at home. Okay. How good is Notre Dame? That's their second loss. Clemson's got one blemish, a close loss on the road to a decent Syracuse team.
Miami is
blemishless. in which they had to play without their quarterback for most of the game.
They were losing in that game with their quarterback in there.
What? But you ever heard of a comeback?
I've heard of comebacks, but they were losing in that game.
So
with
I
the
would put. You
there.
asked me a question. I would put Clemson 2, then I would put Miami 3 and Oklahoma 4.
See, I have Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, Clemson.
Shut up.
And then I would have Auburn.
Well, you really have become a Clemson hater here in a short amount of time.
I'm not a hater. They're in the 4.
You're just constantly railing on the Tigers.
How am I railing on the Tigers? They're in the 4.
Well, so you're saying they couldn't have come back to beat Syracuse with a healthy Kelly Bryant?
I was at that game.
Yes, you were.
And that was a dead team walking. They were bad.
Let's put it this way. If Jarrett Stidham had 7 weeks under his belt and then come back and plays Clemson, how much better did he play against Clemson?
I tell you
Clemson's defense will still be there.
But a better seasoned quarterback would be there
Clemson's
also.
Defense
My
Kelly Bryant didn't have the busted
and
coverage.
so is Auburn's defense and running game. Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, Clemson, Auburn, Wisconsin.
Kelly Bryant didn't have the busted coverage against Eric Dungey and Syracuse there. That defense did not play up to the standard that Clemson has played over the course of the season. They got beat.
Let's go to Alex in Charleston. Next up here on Sports Talk. Alex, how are you? Welcome into the program.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I was a year with Mr. Pelagic, and of course you and Dupre, you're not exceeding the expectations of the guests. And I'm here in Charleston, Mr. Food and Beverage Town Hospitality, and you kept your standards high. By the way, happy birthday. You said, and I think you said it was your 40th?
Yes.
I have another answer. As a bartender in Charleston, I would say it like this: you're 39 forever.
There you go.
Jack Benny.
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows the real truth? Yes.
Exactly. Well, I just want to say it's good to tune into an ESPN station that talks about the triple option. And you talk about sports.
I got to jump in on you here because we got to hit a hard break. We'll be right back. Okay, we got to move quickly here on Sports Talk. I did want to give Alex a chance to get 30 more seconds of thought from down in Charleston. All right, Alex, you got about 30 seconds, my man.
Okay, Mr. Pelagic, I just say, you came out, give him the best, and love him. I hope to hear from him soon. But you two are you're very close. K-Mac's like a hornet. Mr. Pelagic's like a wasp. He's a little softer. And the best trip I ever took, I'm a surfer and all that, and I took a sailing trip to the Bahamas and smooth sailing, and Nick came, and the pro understand this. Tonight, Mr. Pelagic, find a broomstick and jump over it.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate you holding. We've got Kerry Tharp.
That means,
I don't either. Got Kerry
I think
Tharp.
it means he wants you to get married.
Oh, is that what that means? Got Kerry Tharp coming up in just a moment. But last night, the USC men's and women's teams won. The women up at Maryland. The men here in Columbia, they raised that Final Four banner to the rafters. That was quite a big moment for the Gamecocks. Then they went out and beat Western Michigan, pulling away in the latter stages to win comfortably. And you were there?
I was there.
And I was there too, but you were there.
Hassani grabbed 15 second-half points. Frank Martin said he wished he would have prepared his team better.
Real good win for us. They're a real good basketball team. They've got all the ingredients to be a good team. They got athleticism, they got size, they got depth, they got a special player at guard. They can score off the dribble, can score off the catch. It's real proud of the guys. I did a real bad job preparing us to play offense today. But because we're going to have 5 games in 9 days with such a young team, I got to kind of pick and choose what we're doing in practice right now. Is I can't keep these guys on the court for 3 hours. And I chose to prepare our defense. And then I left practice yesterday and we prepared our offense, but we didn't prepare it against live defense. And I went home yesterday and I said, you know what? These guys we're playing are old. They're going to dig into us. They're going to try and deny. And you didn't prepare the guys for it. And that's exactly what happened. But so many new guys. For as bad a job as I did to prepare us offensively, real proud of the way that they fought and figured out a way to play well enough to help us win.
Frank, you mentioned 5 games in 9 days. What's the plan, the schedule for going down to Conway? Will you guys practice here? Will you go ahead and head down there tomorrow and have a few more practice games in that gym?
We practice here tomorrow. Right after practice, we're getting on the bus and we're going. We're going to go Wednesday morning, but with us playing it, at Wofford, turn around, play here, play at 11:30 a.m. This was last week. I said, you know what? Let's leave Tuesday night. So we're going up Tuesday night. So Wednesday we can get our practice in as early as we can, so we can get the minds and the body ready for 11 a.m. So we're going to practice Wednesday early on purpose. So then we can rest and get prepared physically and mentally, the routine of playing at 11:30 in the morning.
All right, time to almost put a bow on this season for NASCAR. We're headed to the championship race down at Miami Homestead this weekend. Welcome in Kerry Tharp, president of Darlington. Good to have you with us once again, my friend. And so many things to talk about from Phoenix. Of course, let's begin with the 4 guys advancing to the championship race. What do you think of the Final Four? How competitive will Harvick, Busch, Truex Jr., and Keselowski be amongst each other as they try to settle this thing?
Well, Phil, I think that's the best 4 drivers for this season have assembled themselves down at Homestead, Miami, and will vie for a championship. I think that, these are the guys that are driving the best right now, performing the best. You got 2 Toyotas and 2 Fords, no Chevrolets, which is a little bit of a surprise. I think it's been well over a dozen years since the Chevrolet hasn't been in the mix to win a championship. And so that's a little bit different. We'll definitely have a new champion this year, as Jimmy Johnson is not back there to defend his title. But, it's interesting. You have 3 guys who have won championships before, Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Brad Keselowski. And then you have Martin Truex Jr., who arguably has put in the best season of his career this year, vying for his first championship. And so I think come Sunday afternoon, early Sunday night at Homestead, Miami, it's going to be very, very interesting, very, very competitive and exciting, and see who wins his championship.
Well, I thought Phoenix was a great race. Boy, the ending was exciting. The battle between Hamlin and Elliott was epic, and Love the way that Elliott handled it after the race, basically saying, I race you the way you race me. And I guess that's sort of code for you took me out, I'm taking you out. And then he just didn't have enough to hold off Kenseth, who won the race, didn't have enough to hold him off down the stretch. But I love that Elliott and Denny Hamlin because you kind of knew the backstory about what was going on there.
Well, you really did, and you rewind for a few weeks ago back to Martinsville when Hamlin just blatantly just drove him into the wall there on the last few laps, and then you look and see what happened on Sunday at Phoenix, and basically Chase Elliott kind of gave him a dose of his own medicine, but he did it so much more subtly than Hamlin did. He got up close to him, he bumped him slightly, he knew exactly what he was doing. And Hamlin then about 2 laps later had cut a tire because of the contact, and he slammed against the wall. And so I think that was Chase Elliott, doing what he had to do, and he did it like a master. I'm sure he learned some of that from his dad on how to take somebody out without being so obvious. And so, Chase Elliott certainly looked like he had another chance maybe to win a race. I think this is about his 6th or 7th runner-up finish this year, and so it was difficult for him, I'm sure, to not get that victory. But I think he's earned a lot of fans over the last few weeks with, like you said, how he handled himself and how he performed down the stretch.
Who do you like at this track of the 4? And of course, now people have to remember you don't have to win the race; you just have to finish ahead of the other 3. Mm-hmm. Of these 4 guys, from your experience with them, who handles this track the best?
Well, Keselowski's won there before when he won his championship, as has Kyle Busch and as Kevin Harvick. So you would think maybe one of those 3 would do it, but I'm going to go with Mark Truex Jr. He's a guy I've been riding all year long. I just think he's had such a fine year. I think this is now set up for him. The stage is set for him, I think, to get his first championship. And so I look for him to not only win the championship on Sunday, but to win the race. I think one of these 4 guys is going to have to win the race, Phil, to earn the championship. And I like Martin Truex Jr.
Okay, that's interesting. From your experience at Phoenix, that looks like a really cool place to watch a race with the desert and the mountains hanging over the track. What's it like out there to watch a race?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, the track is kind of tucked off into a little area they call Avondale. It's off the interstate about 7 or 8 miles, tucked into the mountains there, and you come up on it, and it's just beautiful. It can be very, very chilly there in the morning, but by the time the sun comes up and gets up in the air, up in the sky, it gets pretty warm out there. But they got a big hill out there. They call it Rattlesnake Mountain, where, and I'm sure there's a lot of rattlesnakes up there. I've never ventured up there.
Yeah.
Where people like to watch the race, and they're having a big renovation project out there that's going to turn that racetrack into something pretty spectacular, and deservedly so. I mean, it's the semifinal round of the playoffs, and it needs to be. It needs to be, a more advanced type venue. And so, but it's a beautiful area out there, beautiful countryside, and the fans out there really support it.
KT, we thank you, my man. You're heading down to Homestead, Miami, so enjoy the race down there, and we'll wrap it up with you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Kerry Tharp, President, Darlington Raceway. Hard to believe the long NASCAR season is coming to a close. Some might say finally. 36 races in the season?
Speak for yourself, Corn.
Oh, you want more racing?
I can't wait for next season.
We'll be right back.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Mick Mixon coming up here shortly on Sports Talk. Also, a little bit more from Will Muschamp coming your way in just a moment or two. I want to remind you to get those tickets for the upcoming Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl, December 9th in Myrtle Beach. The tickets are available online via TouchstoneEnergyBowl.com, only $15. Plus, there's a contest to give away tickets to the game. The winner gets 2 tickets, a $100 Visa gift card, and a free Touchstone Energy merchandise. Not a, but some.
A set of merchandise.
Some merchandise from Touchstone Energy. Just go to their website, scliving.coop/touchdown to register. You have until December 1st. scliving.coop/touchdown. All right, Will Muschamp today. Hayden Hurst, of course, stand out. Has been a proven performer. Javon Kinlaw on the way up. Here's Muschamp talking about what he has seen from Hayden Hurst and Javon Kinlaw.
Well, he's well-deserved. I mean, he's a very valuable member of our football team, not just from a tight end position, but from a leadership standpoint. He's, I think, everything you want in a student athlete for what he represents and what more of what he does for our team. He's a shield, on our punt team. He contributes in a lot of ways other than just playing really good tight end for us at South Carolina.
Well, speaking of Hayden, obviously you've known how talented he is, but just what is the thing that really stood out to you the first time you met him?
Work ethic. And I think that's probably, if you had to talk in terms of his, having a great work ethic is an ability. That's a talent. And it's something everyone's looking for, whether you're in the field of football or you're in the business world or whatever. You want somebody that's got a tireless work ethic, and he's got a great competitive edge. And those would be the 2 things that jumped out at me.
Javon Kinlaw seems like a different person. I mean, his confidence level seems to be very high. What could you see for him in terms of impact on the defensive line in the years to come if he continues to work and develop? Well,
I think that nothing has shown me that he won't continue to work and develop. Here's a guy that showed up on campus with over 340 pounds. Kristen Coggins, our nutrition director, does a fantastic job. Completely bought into that side of it, and that takes time. And you got to change eating habits, when you eat, what you eat. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And the young man has done everything we've asked him to do, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's in the film room, schematically, effort, nutrition. I mean, it's been a total change for him as far as the things we are asking him to do as opposed to what maybe he was used to. And, him coming from fall camp, August 1st, to whenever we reported to now has been, a huge credit to him and his buy-in and his investment. I think Lance Thompson's done a fantastic job with him. And but a guy, you got to credit the player in a lot of situations for continuing to put himself in this position. And nothing, in my opinion, Phil, that would ever slow down his progression as far as his work ethic and his hunger to be a really good football player, because he's got that kind of mentality.
Person goal, the 4-yard line, 3-0 Carolina. McCaffrey gets the handoff, heading right. Good move, hesitates, accelerates, touchdown, Carolina.
Man, we heard that a lot last night. The Panthers rolling it up on the now hapless Miami Dolphins. We welcome in the voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon, to Sports Talk. A day late, but not a touchdown short. Played well last night. They got to feel good about where things are headed right now.
Very definitely, Corn. That was clutch last night. I mean, the whole nation looking in, listening in. The Panthers set a franchise record for yards in the game with 548. Carolina has 30 first downs, 11 of 14 on third down. Cam Newton is now 5-1 on Monday nights. 15 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions on Monday Night Football. And this was a win that kind of, I think, answered some questions about the 6-3 record the Panthers went into the game with. It was a 6-3. It was sort of a yeah, but 6-3. Yeah, but your offense is inconsistent. Who have you beaten? What are you doing? What can you do? But now, I think that not only did the Panthers keep pace in the division, but this win got a lot of folks' attention around the league.
Mm-hmm. Mickey, okay?
Yeah, I think I'm dealing with a little bit of a little cold, and I was winning, but then I fumbled on this 1 yard line sometime during the night.
Yeah.
Well, Mick, it seems a lot of years since the #1 pick that the Panthers had, and Jonathan Stewart checked into that Motel 6 in Spartanburg years ago, but he looked like he had those young, fresh legs last night.
If there was a human story, I mean, some teams pretty bloodless. They just trade you, cut you, whatever, just trying to win. The Panthers aren't that way.
Well, don't tell Kelvin Benjamin that. You all right? I'll fill in for you here while you cough up a lung.
No, it happens. I mean, sometimes you got to do it, but Jonathan, what I'm trying to say is Jonathan Stewart. People care about Jonathan Stewart in the building and on the team, and for him to have visited some very dark places mentally after fumbling twice against Atlanta, he could not wait. I mean, he was frothing. The cliche, I hate cliches, but you know, the old chip on your shoulder, that's an insult. I mean, he had Kings Mountain on his shoulder, and he played well, 110 yards, a season high for him.
Terrible news about Curtis Samuel, Mick. How does Carolina respond, and who, in part, do you look to respond?
I would think that the answer is on the roster, but because I think Kalen Clay, the Panthers are a fan of Clay, but you know, I don't know. What would you do? Would you go on the street, try to bring in somebody and indoctrinate them? It is tough because Samuel's got that speed. He's the jet that can take the top off the defense in the nomenclature of coaching. And so yeah, I think I would predict if Demir Bird, Kornbluth's favorite son, Ariel, New Jersey, Demir Bird, the former Gamecock, I bet Korn covered his recruiting if he was recruited.
Indeed.
You need to get him back and to get Olsen back, and that might help fill the Samuel void.
For those who don't know, Samuel injured his ankle, is going to have season-ending surgery and be placed on injured reserve. So, yeah, I think you're right about this. People had to sit up and take notice, not just of the victory, but just how dominating the Panthers were in that win. So you move on, you get the Jets up in New York. Enjoy that.
Got a bye week, then the Jets, then at the Saints.
Yeah, that's
come home for 3 in a row.
Yeah, but I mean the Jets. You don't take anything for granted in the NFL, but they're kind of struggling. And I mean, if you take care of business, then you got that big showdown in New Orleans that will say a lot about who's going to win that division.
That game's been flexed, by the way. It'll be a 4:30 game instead of 1 o'clock. Or 4 o'clock. It'll be the afternoon slot. 4:25, I think, is the kickoff time.
Right.
This division that was once overlooked, Mick, is now pretty. I would say one of the better ones, at least as far as top to bottom.
Pretty robust. I mean, you got great quarterbacks in the division. Tampa Bay's a little bit of a dumpster fire right now, but even they're not totally done. Stories about John Gruden possibly returning to coach Tampa Bay if Dirk Cutter doesn't get it done there, if they don't turn it around, but. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta, it could come down to the Panthers at Atlanta on New Year's Eve.
Well, listen, if you guys can, bounce back from your loss to the Packers on December 17th, I like your chances.
So you have Wayne Larrivee on. Does Wayne, the voice of the Packers, come on your show a lot?
I can get Wayne on.
He's good friends with Tim Beret. I'm sure if we asked, we could get him.
I got Wayne's number.
The first order of business is hiding Drew Brees' Geritol. That's the first order of business. This guy doesn't get old.
Are you doing your show tonight?
Yeah, we got Vernon Butler as our player guest and Coach Rivera on tape, but it'll be a good show later.
Okay, man. You hang in there. Hope you feel better.
No doubt. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. Mick Mixon voice, coffee voice of the Panthers, sniffly voice of the Panthers. Good that they have a bye week. Give him a chance to recover.
Jets have a bye going into that game as well.
Oh, okay. Who cares about the Jets?
They play the Jets, I'm saying.
Have a great night. We're heading towards basketball later this week here on Sports Talk. We'll have it covered for you. See you tomorrow.